Have you ever really looked at the back of a $1 bill? I mean, truly examined it. Most of us see it every day, but we glance right past one of the most fascinating symbols in American history. The Great Seal of the United States. It's not just on our money. You'll find it on official government documents, marking the entrances to embassies around the world, and stamped onto presidential podiums. It's a symbol of authority, a mark of the nation itself. But what does it actually mean? Today, we're going to peel back the layers of this iconic emblem and uncover the stories hidden within. This isn't just about history. It's about the very soul of a nation, captured in a single, intricate design. Let's start our journey together. Take out a $1 bill if you have one, or just picture it in your mind. Focus on the front of the seal, the side with the majestic bald eagle. It's a powerful image, isn't it? The eagle, a symbol of strength and freedom, chosen specifically for its long life and magnificent presence. But the real story, the quiet drama, lies in what it's holding. In its right talon, it clutches an olive branch, and in its left, a bundle of arrows. Look closely at the olive branch. Count the leaves. There are 13. Now, count the olives. 13 again. And what about the arrows in the other talon? You guessed it. 13. This isn't a coincidence. It's the beginning of a code, a visual language that speaks volumes about the birth of the United States. Every detail on this seal was debated, designed, and redesigned by the nation's founders. They weren't just creating a logo. They were crafting a message for the future, for us. The number 13, of course, represents the original 13 colonies that united to form a new nation. These symbols, the olive branch and the arrows, tell a quiet story of unity, struggle, and enduring hope. The olive branch has long been a universal symbol of peace. Its presence on the seal signifies America's profound desire to live in harmony with other nations. It's a declaration that peace is the primary goal, the preferred path. But the founders were also realists. They had just fought a long and brutal war for their independence. They understood that peace, sometimes, must be defended. And that brings us to the bundle of 13 arrows. Held firmly in the eagle's left talon, they represent the necessity of strength and the readiness to protect the nation's hard-won freedoms. The arrows are a stark reminder that the United States would not shrink from conflict if its principles or its people were threatened. They symbolize the power of the 13 states, united in defense. What's truly brilliant, though, is the placement. Notice the eagle's head is turned towards the olive branch. This is a deliberate choice, a powerful statement. It signifies that America, while prepared for war, will always prefer and prioritize peace. The message is clear: we seek peace, but do not mistake our desire for harmony as a sign of weakness. We are strong, and we are ready. Now, let's look above the eagle's head. You'll see a radiant constellation of 13 stars, arranged in a specific pattern, breaking through a cloud. This formation is called a glory. It represents the new nation taking its place among the other sovereign powers of the world. The cloud symbolizes the old, often oppressive, systems of the past, while the stars bursting forth signify the birth of a new constellation, a new form of government, guided by divine providence and enlightenment ideals. It's a celestial birth announcement. The arrangement of the stars themselves, forming a 6-pointed star, is another layer of symbolism, representing the union of the states into a cohesive whole, shining brightly for all the world to see. And we can't forget the banner held in the eagle's beak. It bears the Latin motto, E pluribus unum. This is perhaps the most famous phrase associated with the United States, and its meaning is at the very core of the American experiment. Out of many, one. It's a simple yet profound concept. Out of 13 distinct, often quarrelsome colonies, one unified nation was forged. It speaks to the incredible challenge of bringing together diverse peoples with different backgrounds, economies, and cultures under a single banner of shared ideals. This motto isn't just a historical footnote. It's a continuing aspiration, a reminder that the nation's strength comes from its unity, from the ability to find common ground and purpose among its many different parts. But that's only half of the story. If you flip the seal over, or just look to the left on the back of your $1 bill, you'll find the reverse side, a design that's even more mysterious and has sparked countless theories over the years. We see an unfinished pyramid, topped by the all-seeing Eye of Providence. This is where the symbolism gets really deep and, for many, a little strange. What does this mysterious pyramid represent? Why is it unfinished? And what is the meaning of that single eye, floating in a triangle of light? This side of the seal wasn't officially used for over 150 years, but its meaning is just as crucial to understanding the founders' vision for America. It speaks to the future, to the ongoing project of building a nation. Let's break it down. The pyramid itself is a symbol of strength and permanence. Its 13 layers of stone, once again, represent the 13 original states. The fact that it's unfinished is key. It signifies that the work of building the United States is not complete. The nation is, and always will be, a work in progress, constantly striving to reach a more perfect state. At the base of the pyramid, you'll find the Roman numerals MD, CCL, XXVI. That is 1776, the year the Declaration of Independence was signed, the foundation upon which this entire structure is built. It anchors the nation's future aspirations to its founding moment. Above the pyramid floats the Eye of Providence, a symbol that has been used by various cultures and groups for centuries. In the context of the Great Seal, it represents the divine guidance and watchful care of a higher power over the American endeavor. The eye is enclosed in a triangle, a traditional symbol of the Holy Trinity, further emphasizing the founders' belief that the nation's destiny was blessed and overseen. The rays of light emanating from it suggest that this divine favor illuminates the path forward for the young republic. It's a symbol of faith, not in any single religion, but in the idea that the American project was guided by a purpose greater than itself. Finally, let's look at the two Latin mottos on this side of the seal. Above the eye, we read Annuit Cuptais, which translates to, "He has favored our undertakings." This phrase reinforces the idea of divine approval for the new nation. It is a statement of gratitude and confidence that the path they have chosen is a righteous one. And below the pyramid, on a scroll, is the motto Novus Ordo Seclorum. This is probably the most debated and misunderstood phrase on the entire seal. It translates to a new order of the ages. This doesn't refer to some secret society's agenda, but rather announces the beginning of a new era in human history. The American era, the founders believed they were creating something entirely new. A republic based on liberty and the rights of the individual, a departure from the monarchies and empires of the old world. So, when you put it all together, the Great Seal is more than just a piece of graphic design. It's a declaration of principles, a historical document, and a statement of national identity. It tells the story of a nation that values peace but is prepared to defend itself. A nation built from many parts into a single whole. A nation that is always under construction, striving for perfection under the watchful eye of Providence. It's a symbol of hope, a reminder of the monumental task the founders undertook, and a challenge to every generation of Americans to continue building that new order of the ages. So the next time you handle a dollar bill, take a moment. Look closely. The story of America is right there in your hand, waiting to be read. Thank you for joining me on this first chapter of our journey. Be sure to follow and subscribe, because next, we're going to dive even deeper into the dramatic and often contentious process of how this incredible symbol came to be. Imagine this. It's 1776. The ink is barely dry on the Declaration of Independence. 13 colonies, once subjects of a distant king, have just declared themselves a free and independent nation. The air is electric, thick with a mix of exhaustion from years of conflict and the exhilarating, slightly terrifying prospect of building something entirely new. Think about the sheer scale of their task. They weren't just creating a new government, they were forging a new identity from scratch. This wasn't a world of instant communication. There were no logos, no branding, no digital signatures. In the 18th century, the ultimate mark of authority, the symbol of sovereignty, was a seal. A seal was more than just a fancy stamp. It was the physical embodiment of a nation's power and legitimacy. It authenticated documents, finalized treaties, and declared to the world, we are real. We are here, and we have the authority to govern. So, On the very same day they declared their independence, July 4th, 1776. The Continental Congress recognized this urgent need. Before they could even figure out the details of their new government, they knew they needed a symbol to represent it. They passed a resolution, resolved Dr. Franklin, Mr. J. Adams, and Mr. Jefferson be a committee to bring in a device for a seal for the United States of America. Talk about an all-star team. Benjamin Franklin the Wise, world-renowned scientist and diplomat. John Adams, the brilliant, passionate lawyer from Massachusetts. And Thomas Jefferson, the visionary author of the Declaration itself. These three titans of American history were tasked with a monumental challenge to distill the essence of a nation, its values, its struggles, its hopes for the future into a single powerful image. What would this image be? What symbols could possibly capture the spirit of this fledgling republic, born from revolution and dedicated to the ideals of liberty? The task was far more complex than it sounds. Every element would be scrutinized, its meaning debated. This wasn't just about creating a pretty picture. It was about defining, in visual form, what it meant to be American. The committee got to work immediately. Each man brought his own unique perspective and classical education to the table. They weren't just thinking about eagles and flags. They were drawing from ancient history, from the Bible, from mythology, and from the Enlightenment philosophies that had fueled their revolution. They understood that symbols have power. The right symbol could inspire citizens and command respect from other nations. The wrong one could be seen as weak, derivative, or worse, a betrayal of the very principles they had fought for. Their initial ideas were fascinating and reveal a lot about their mindset. Franklin, ever the pragmatist with a dramatic flair, proposed a scene straight out of the Old Testament. Moses parting the Red Sea, with Pharaoh and his army being overwhelmed by the waters. His proposed motto was, "Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God." It was a powerful, defiant massacre, reflecting the life-or-death struggle they had just endured against the British crown. It was a clear statement. Our fight was righteous, divinely sanctioned. Jefferson, on the other hand, looked to a different historical narrative. He suggested depicting the children of Israel in the wilderness, led by a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. On the reverse, he envisioned Hengist and Hosa, the two legendary Saxon chiefs from whom the Anglo-Saxons were said to descend. Jefferson was making a more subtle point about origins and governance. He was arguing that America's roots of liberty didn't come from the Norman conquest of England, but from the more ancient, democratic traditions of the Anglo-Saxons. He was claiming a heritage of freedom that predated the British monarchy they had just overthrown. And John Adams, he was a bit more philosophical, suggesting a classical scene known as the Judgment of Hercules. In this story, the young hero Hercules must choose between two paths, one of easy pleasure and vice, and one of difficult duty and virtue. Adams saw America at a similar crossroads. Would it become a nation dedicated to easy self-interest, or would it choose the harder path of civic virtue and public service? It was a moral allegory for the new republic. You can see the weight of the decision in their suggestions. They were grappling with huge questions. Is our nation defined by our divine deliverance, our ancient heritage of freedom, or our moral choices? The committee tried to combine these ideas. They hired a consultant, an artist named Pierre Ig. D. Ducimitière, to help them create a final design. Ducimitière was a talented artist and a bit of a collector, well-versed in the language of heraldry. He took elements from all their ideas and added his own. He proposed a shield with symbols for the 6 ancestral nations of the colonists: England, Scotland, Ireland, France, Germany, and Holland. Surrounding this shield were 13 smaller shields, one for each state. He included the figure of liberty and a revolutionary soldier as supporters, and above it all, a placette the Eye of Providence and a radiant triangle, a symbol suggesting divine oversight and favor. For the motto, he suggested, E pluribus unum, out of many, one. This phrase, E pluribus unum, was the most enduring contribution of that first committee. It perfectly captured the central challenge and promise of the United States. Taking 13 separate, diverse, and often squabbling colonies and uniting them into a single, cohesive nation. It's a concept we still grapple with today. In August 1776, the committee presented their complex design to Congress. It featured the shield, the figures of liberty and justice, the Eye of Providence, and the motto, I pluribus unam. On the reverse was Franklin, son of Moses, and the drowning Pharaoh. And what did Congress do? Nothing. They tabled it. Why? Well, the country was in the middle of a war. The British had just landed on Long Island, and Washington's army was in a desperate retreat. Designing a seal, as important as it was, probably seemed less urgent than, surviving. The design itself was also perhaps too complex, too busy. A great seal needs to be clear and powerful, recognizable even when small. Their proposal, while full of meaning, was a bit of a cluttered mess from a design perspective. And so, the first attempt ended in failure. The grand ideas of Franklin, Adams, and Jefferson were filed away. The quest for a national symbol was put on hold. For the next 4 years, as the war raged on, the United States remained a nation without a seal, a government without its official mark of authority. The dream of a visual identity for America was deferred, waiting for a new committee and a new set of ideas to bring it to life. The story of the Great Seal was far from over. It had only just begun. Thank you so much for watching. This is just the beginning of our journey into the incredible story behind America's greatest symbol. If you found this fascinating, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next chapter. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hello history buffs, and welcome back to our series on the Great Seal of the United States. Last time, we explored the origins of this national quest. Today, we're rediving into Chapter 3. The First Seal Committee and the surprising vision of none other than Benjamin Franklin. Picture this. It's the evening of July 4th, 1776. The ink on the Declaration of Independence is barely dry, but the Continental Congress is already thinking about the future. They know this new nation needs a symbol, an official emblem to represent its authority and ideals on the world stage. So, that very day, they appointed a committee of 3 intellectual giants to tackle the task. John Adams, a fiery lawyer from Massachusetts, Thomas Jefferson, the eloquent principal author of the Declaration from Virginia, and Benjamin Franklin, the world-renowned scientist, diplomat, and elder statesman from Pennsylvania. What a lineup, right? A true dream team of the Founding Fathers. These 3 men were tasked with creating a device for a seal for the United States of America. It was a monumental responsibility. This seal wouldn't just be a pretty picture. It would be the visual embodiment of the nation's core principles, its struggles, and its aspirations. It had to be powerful, meaningful, and instantly recognizable. Now, you might expect them to immediately jump to eagles, shields, and stars. But the first ideas were far more complex and drew heavily from classical and biblical history. Each member brought their own unique perspective to the table. They collaborated, debated, and sketched. But it's Benjamin Franklin's proposal that truly stands out for its dramatic and unexpected imagery. Franklin, ever the pragmatist, but also a man of deep, allegorical thinking, suggested a scene of divine intervention and liberation. He envisioned the seal depicting the moment Moses, standing on the shore, extends his hand over the sea, causing it to part and overwhelm the pursuing Pharaoh and his army. Imagine that on an official document. The message was clear and powerful, a depiction of tyranny overthrown by the hand of Providence. To make the symbolism even more explicit, Franklin proposed the motto, "Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God." This phrase was so dear to him that he even considered it for his own personal seal. It perfectly captured the revolutionary spirit of 1776, the idea that their fight against the British Crown was not just a political squabble, but a moral and divine imperative. It was a bold, confrontational, and deeply religious concept, reflecting the high stakes of the revolution. Meanwhile, Thomas Jefferson, a man steeped in classical history and Enlightenment ideals, had a different idea. He proposed a scene depicting the children of Israel in the wilderness, led by a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. This was for one side of the seal. For the reverse, he suggested a more Anglo-Saxon theme, the legendary chieftains Hendrik and Horsa, who were believed to be the leaders of the first Germanic settlers in Britain. Jefferson saw them as symbols of the Saxon roots of American liberty and self-governance. A nod to the ancient freedoms he believed the colonists were reclaiming from a corrupt British monarchy. John Adams, practical and direct, was initially less focused on a specific scene and more on the overall artistic direction. He consulted with an artist, Eugene-Pierre de Saint-Métier, a Swiss-born portraitist and naturalist living in Philadelphia. De Saint-Métier's proposal was more in line with what we might expect from a national coat of arms. He suggested a shield featuring symbols for the 6 ancestral nations of the colonists: England, Scotland, Ireland, France, Germany, and Holland. Supporting the shield were the goddess of liberty on one side and an American rifleman on the other. Above it all was the Eye of Providence in a radiant triangle, its glory extending over the shield and beyond the figures. So you have 3 main proposals: Franklin's dramatic biblical deliverance, Jefferson's historical nod to ancient liberties, and de Saint-Métier's more traditional heraldic design. What did the committee do? They did what all good committees do. They compromised and combined their ideas. On August 20th, 1776, they presented their final report to Congress. Their design was a synthesis of all these elements. The shield from de Saint-Métier's proposal was adopted, featuring the symbols of the European nations from which America originated. The supporters were a female figure representing justice, holding a sword and a balance, and the goddess of liberty. For the crest, they chose Franklin's Moses parting the Red Sea. And for the reverse side of the seal, they used Jefferson's sign of Umgesten Horsa. At the very top, they included de Saint-Métier's Eye of Providence, symbolizing divine favor and oversight. And they settled on a powerful new motto, E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. This phrase beautifully captured the idea of 30 separate colonies uniting to form a single, new nation. However, Congress was not entirely convinced. The design was complex, perhaps too busy and allegorical for their taste. It was filled with rich symbolism, but maybe it wasn't the single, unifying image they were hoping for. So, what happened? Congress tabled the report. They set it aside, and for the next 3.5 years, the quest for a great seal went dormant. But the work of this first committee was far from a failure. Their ideas, though not adopted outright, laid a crucial foundation. They introduced key elements that would persist through later designs: the concept of E pluribus unum, the Eye of Providence, the shield representing the states, and the number 30. All of these foundational symbols emerged from the debates and creative brainstorming of Franklin, Jefferson, and Adams. They planted the seeds from which the final Great Seal would eventually grow. Their vision, especially Franklin's powerful story of liberation, set the tone for a symbol that would represent not just a government, but a national identity forged in struggle and hope. Join us next time as we explore Chapter 4, where the search for the Great Seal is renewed with a second committee, bringing new artists and new ideas into this fascinating story. What will they keep? What will they change? You won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you're enjoying this journey into American history, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter. We'll see you in the next video. Hello and welcome back to our journey through the hidden symbols of American history. Today, we're diving into a number that's often shrouded in superstition. But for the United States, it's a number of profound significance. 13. This isn't about bad luck. It's about birth, unity, and the very foundation of a nation. This is Chapter 4. 13 united as one. So, where does this all begin? It starts with the 13 British colonies stretched along the Atlantic coast. These weren't just random territories. They were distinct communities, each with its own identity, economy, and culture. From the rocky shores of New England, where Puritans sought religious freedom, to the fertile fields of Virginia, built on agriculture. These colonies were incredibly diverse. You had Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Rhode Island forming the New England colonies, known for their tight-knit towns and focus on trade and ship. Then came the middle colonies, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. This region was a true melting pot, welcoming a wide range of European immigrants, including English, Dutch, and Germans. This diversity fostered a climate of religious tolerance and economic variety. From farming wheat to bustling port cities like Philadelphia and New York. Finally, the southern colonies, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Their economies were largely agrarian, centered on vast plantations growing cash crops like tobacco, rice, and indigo. This created a unique social structure, very different from their northern neighbors. For decades, these 13 distinct entities operated under British rule, sometimes cooperating, sometimes competing, but always as separate subjects of the crown. But as tensions with Great Britain escalated in the mid-18th century, something incredible began to happen. The famous rallying cry, "Join or die," illustrated by Benjamin Franklin's segmented snake, captured a growing sentiment. The colonies realized that their individual grievances, be it taxes without representation, restrictive trade laws, or the presence of British soldiers, were shared. They understood that alone they were weak, but together they might just stand a chance. This led to the First and Second Continental Congresses, where delegates from these 13 colonies came together to debate their future. It was a monumental task. Imagine trying to get representatives from 13 different countries to agree on a single path forward. There were heated arguments, deep divisions, and moments where it all could have fallen apart. Yet, through compromise and a shared vision of liberty, they found common ground. And on that fateful day, July 4th, 1776, they collectively declared their independence. It wasn't one colony or a handful of them. It was 13. 13 colonies. No self-proclaimed states, standing united against the most powerful empire in the world. This act of unison transformed the number 13 from a simple quantity into a powerful symbol of courage, unity, and revolution. It was the moment 13 became one. From that point on, the number 13 was woven into the very fabric of the new nation's identity. It wasn't just a historical footnote. It became a sacred emblem, a constant reminder of their origin story. The most prominent example is, of course, the Great Seal of the United States. Let's take a closer look. On the front of the seal, we see the bald eagle, the nation's bird. What is it holding? In its left talon, it clasps a bundle of 13 arrows, symbolizing the nation's readiness and strength to defend itself. In its right talon, an olive branch with 13 leaves and 13 olives, representing the profound desire for peace. The message is clear. The United States seeks peace, but is always prepared for war, and both symbols are rooted in that foundational number, 13. Look above the eagle's head. There's a constellation of 13 stars, arranged to form a larger 6-pointed star, breaking through a cloud. This glory represents the new nation taking its place among the other sovereign powers of the world. And on the shield protecting the eagle's breast, 13 vertical stripes, red and white, representing the 13 states joined together and supported by a blue horizontal bar, which stands for Congress. Every element shouts, 13. Now, let's flip the seal to its reverse side. The side you see on the $1 bill, there's the unfinished pyramid. This pyramid has 13 steps, representing the original 13 states and the nation's constant pursuit of growth and perfection. At its base, the year 1776 is written in Roman numerals, the year of the declaration by those 13 colonies. The motto above it, and white say, PD is often translated as Providence has favored our undertakings, is itself 13 letters long. Coincidence? Unlikely. The founders were deliberate. They were crafting a national mythology, and 13 was a cornerstone. The symbolism doesn't stop with the Great Seal. It flies high on the flag. The first official flag of the United States, the Stars and Stripes, featured 13 stars in a circle and 13 alternating red and white stripes. The circle of stars represented the equality of the states, with no one state above another. The 13 stripes were a direct nod to the 13 founding colonies that rebelled. While the number of stars has grown with each new state added to the Union, what has remained constant? The 13 stripes. They are a permanent tribute to our origins, a reminder that no matter how large the country becomes, it all started with that original baker's dozen of rebellious colonies. This reverence for the number 13 even extended into the nation's architecture and infrastructure. Early government buildings and monuments sometimes incorporated the number in subtle ways. From the number of columns to decorative motifs, it was a form of patriotic numerology, embedding the story of the nation's birth into the very stones of its cities. For the founding generation, 13 wasn't unlucky. It was the number of unity, of strength, derived from diversity, and of a shared destiny. It symbolized the audacious idea that 13 disparate parts could come together to form a single, enduring whole. It's the number that signifies e pluribus unum, out of many, one. So, the next time you see 13 stripes on a flag, or glance at the back of a dollar bill, remember the story it tells? It's not just a number. It's a tribute to 13 colonies that dared to dream of a new world, a testament to their struggle, and a symbol of the unity that forged a nation. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into American symbolism. I hope it gives you a new appreciation for the hidden stories all around us. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel for more explorations into our shared history. Drop a comment below with any other symbols you're curious about. We'll see you in the next chapter. End of video. Have you ever looked at the Great Seal of the United States and wondered, why a bald eagle? It seems so obvious now, right? This majestic bird, a symbol of power and freedom. But the story of how it got there is way more interesting than you might think. It wasn't the first choice, and it definitely wasn't the only choice. Stick around, because we're about to uncover the fascinating debate that gave America its most iconic symbol. Welcome back to our series exploring the hidden histories behind national symbols. Today, we're diving into Chapter 5. The Bald Eagle, Strength and Flight. When the Second Continental Congress tasked a committee with designing a seal for the new nation in 1776, they knew they needed a symbol that captured the spirit of America. It had to represent strength, independence, and a bright future. The first committee, which included Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and John Adams, had some interesting ideas. Their proposal was incredibly complex, featuring a shield with symbols for England, Scotland, Ireland, France, Germany, and Holland. The countries from which many immigrants came. On one side, you had Lady Liberty, and on the other, Lady Justice. The central image. It depicted the Israelites crossing the Red Sea, with Pharaoh being overwhelmed by the water. The motto was, "Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God." It was a powerful message, but visually, it was a bit much. Congress thought so too, and the idea was tabled. This kicked off a 6-year saga with 3 different committees trying to nail down the perfect design. The pressure was on. This seal wasn't just a prettier picture. It would be used to authenticate official documents, treaties, and communications. It had to be perfect. It had to be asterisk. American asterisk. One of the most persistent and symbolic ideas that kept popping up was the phoenix. You know, the mythical bird that rises from its own ashes, reborn and more powerful than before. It's a compelling metaphor, isn't it? For a new nation born from the fires of revolution, the phoenix represented resurrection and eternal life. It symbolized America's ability to overcome destruction and emerge stronger. The Second Committee, in 1780, was particularly fond of this idea. Their design featured a shield with 13 stripes, a constellation of 13 stars, and 2 figures, a soldier and a goddess of peace. The crest above it all, a phoenix in flames. It was dramatic, classical, and full of hope. But there was a problem. The phoenix, for all its powerful symbolism, wasn't real. It was a creature of myth, rooted in ancient Egyptian and Greek legends. The founders were building a new world, a nation grounded in reality, reason, and the natural world. Did they really want their primary symbol to be a mythological creature from the old world they were so determined to leave behind? It felt a little borrowed, a little inauthentic. They needed something that was uniquely and undeniably American. And this is where the conversation gets really fun, because we have to talk about Benjamin Franklin and the turkey. Now, there's a popular myth that Franklin formally proposed the turkey for the national bird. While he never actually did that in a committee meeting, he did write a letter to his daughter complaining about the final choice of the bald eagle. He argued that the eagle was a bird of bad moral character. He pointed out that it was often lazy, stealing fish from other birds like the osprey. He described it as a coward, easily chased away by the much smaller kingbird. In contrast, he praised the turkey. He called it a much more respectable bird, and a true original native of America. He argued it was a bird of courage, one that would unhesitate to attack a grenadier of the British Guards who should presume to invade his farmyard with a red coat on. It's a hilarious image, and classic Franklin wit, but his point was serious. He wanted a symbol that was virtuous, brave, and thoroughly American. While his turkey advocacy was more of a humorous critique than a serious proposal, it highlights the core of the debate. What qualities should America's symbol truly represent? After years of debate and several rejected designs, the task fell to Charles Thomson, the Secretary of Congress. He was a practical man, and he was tired of the delays. He took the best elements from the previous designs: the stripes, the stars, the olive branch, the arrows, and decided to find the perfect central figure to tie it all together. He looked to the natural world of the continent, and there it was, soaring over the rivers and mountains of North America. The bald eagle. Unlike the phoenix, the bald eagle was real. It was native to this land. It wasn't a myth from a distant shore. It was a living, breathing part of the American wilderness. This was crucial. The new nation was defining itself by its connection to this specific place, this continent. Choosing a native animal was a powerful declaration of identity, but it was more than just being native. The bald eagle projected an image of supreme power and majesty. Have you ever seen one in person? They are magnificent. They can have a wingspan of over 7 feet. When Thomson described his design, he specified an American eagle on the wing and rising. This wasn't a static bird perched on a branch. It was a bird in motion, ascending, powerful. Look at the final design. The eagle's wings are spread wide, not in an aggressive posture, but in a gesture of calm, confident authority. It represents the sovereignty of the United States. This isn't a nation that needs to prove its strength with overt aggression. Its power is inherent, displayed with a quiet, majestic confidence. The eagle's gaze is fierce and focused, looking towards the future. In one talon, the eagle holds an olive branch, with 13 leaves and 13 olives, symbolizing the power to make peace. In the other, it holds 13 arrows, symbolizing the power to make war. But notice its head is turned towards the olive branch. This was a deliberate choice, signaling that America is a nation that desires peace but is always prepared to defend itself. Above the eagle's head is a constellation of 13 stars, breaking through a cloud, representing the new nation taking its place among the other sovereign states. And in its beak, a scroll with the motto, I pluribus, unam, autiav, many. 1. The eagle literally carries the words that define the American experiment. So, the bald eagle wasn't just a random choice. It was the perfect synthesis of everything the founders were looking for. It was powerful, but not tyrannical. It was majestic, symbolizing the sovereignty of the new government. And most importantly, it was purely American, a symbol born from the continent itself, not from the myths and legends of the old world. It was a declaration that this new nation was strong, independent, and ready to soar. The journey from a mythical phoenix to a wild turkey and finally to the bald eagle tells us so much about how America saw itself. It was a search for an identity that was both powerful and virtuous, idealistic and grounded in reality. In the end, they found it in the calm majesty and undeniable strength of the bald eagle, a bird that truly represents strength in flight. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. I hope it gives you a new appreciation for the symbol you see every day on our currency and official buildings. If you enjoyed this, please hit that like button. And be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next chapter in our series. See you next time. Welcome back to our deep dive into the symbols that define a nation. In this chapter, we turn our gaze to a symbol of strength and readiness. The 13 arrows clutched firmly in the eagle's left talon on the Great Seal of the United States. This isn't just a random bundle. It's a powerful statement about defense, unity, and the price of freedom. Let's start with the number 13. Just like the 13 stripes on the shield and the 13 leaves on the olive branch, these 13 arrows represent the original 13 colonies that united to form a new nation. But while the olive branch, held in the eagle's right talon, signifies a desire for peace, the arrows tell a different story. They represent the necessity of strength and the willingness to defend that peace. Think about it. A single arrow can be easily broken, but a bundle of 13, they are formidable, almost unbreakable. This is the core message of the arrows. Unity is strength. When the colonies, and later the states, stood together, they created a defensive force far greater than the sum of their individual parts. This concept of collective security has been a cornerstone of American defense policy ever since. It's the idea that an attack on one is an attack on all, and that in standing together, we find our greatest protection. Notice how the eagle holds these arrows. The grip is firm, decisive. The arrowheads are sharp, pointing outwards. This isn't a passive symbol. It signifies a state of constant readiness. It communicates to the world that while peace is the ultimate goal, this nation is not naive. It understands that freedom sometimes requires a defense, and it is prepared to meet any threat. This readiness isn't about aggression. It's about deterrence. The very presence of the arrows serves as a warning. Do not mistake our love for peace as a sign of weakness. The arrows also embody the concept of a just war or a defensive war. They are not a symbol of conquest or imperialism. Coupled with the eagle's head turned towards the olive branch, the message is clear. We prefer peace, but we will not shrink from conflict if our liberties are threatened. This duality is central to the American identity. A nation born from a fight for freedom, which therefore cherishes peace, but understands what it takes to protect it. This symbol also speaks to the responsibility that comes with power. The arrows represent the military might of the United States. They remind us that this power is meant to be a tool for defense, for the protection of the nation's people and its ideals. It's a solemn duty, not to be taken lightly. The strength represented by the arrows is in service to the liberty represented by the entire seal. Over the centuries, the nature of threats has changed, from invading armies to more complex global challenges. Yet, the symbolism of the arrows remains as relevant as ever. It speaks to the need for a strong, united defense, not just in a military sense, but in our collective resolve to protect our way of life. It's about being prepared, vigilant, and unified in the face of adversity. Think of the moments in history when this unity and defense was tested, from the Revolutionary War itself to the trials of the 20th century and beyond. The principle of standing together against threats has been a recurring theme. The arrows on the Great Seal are a permanent reminder of this legacy and this ongoing commitment. They are a promise that the nation will always be ready to defend the freedoms it holds so dear. So, when you see that bundle of 13 arrows, don't just see a symbol of war. See a symbol of unity. See the strength that comes from collective protection. See the unwavering resolve to stand guard over liberty. It's a powerful, complex message, telling the story of a nation that hopes for peace, but is always prepared to defend it. The arrows are not just weapons. They are the guardians of freedom, clutched tightly in the talons of the American eagle. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of the arrows of defense. The Great Seal is full of such profound symbolism, and we've only just begun to uncover its secrets. If you found this chapter enlightening, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. We truly appreciate your support. Until next time, stay curious. Alright, let's turn our attention to what the eagle holds in its right talon. It's an olive branch, but like everything on this seal, it's packed with meaning. Count them up. You'll find 13 leaves and 13 olives. Sound familiar? That number 13, representing the original 13 colonies, is a constant refrain in this American symphony. Now, why an olive branch? For thousands of years, across cultures from ancient Greece to the Bible, the olive branch has been the universal symbol of peace. It's a gesture of goodwill, an offering of tranquility and reconciliation. By placing this powerful symbol in the eagle's right talon, the founders of the United States were making a profound and deliberate statement to the world. The message is crystal clear. America desires peace. This wasn't a nation forged in a love for conflict. It was a nation born from a yearning for liberty and the pursuit of happiness, ideals that can only truly flourish in times of peace. The primary stance, the preferred path, is one of diplomacy, friendship, and mutual respect among nations. Open hand, not the clenched fist, is our first instinct. Think about the context. A brand new nation, having just emerged from the fires of the Revolutionary War, chose to highlight peace as one of its core principles. It wasn't about boasting of their recent military victory. Instead, it was about declaring their ultimate aspiration. They wanted to build a society where future generations would not have to endure the hardships of war they had just faced. This is a powerful testament to their vision. They weren't just warriors. They were architects of a lasting peace. This preference for peace is woven into the fabric of American foreign policy and identity. It's the reason the nation often champions diplomatic solutions, extends humanitarian aid, and participates in global peacekeeping efforts. The olive branch represents the hope that dialogue can triumph over discord, that understanding can bridge divides, and that common ground can be found even in the most challenging situations. But let's look closer. The right talon is considered the place of honor. By placing the olive branch here, it's given prominence. It's the dominant symbol, the first offering. This positioning is not accidental. It signifies that peace is the nation's primary and most honorable objective. It's the ideal to which the nation strives. However, the Great Seal tells a complete story, not just a partial one. And peace, as the founders knew, doesn't exist in a vacuum. It must be nurtured, it must be valued, and sometimes it must be defended. The eagle's gaze is fixed towards the olive branch, indicating this preference, but it doesn't ignore the other talon. The founders were idealists, but they were also realists. They understood that a desire for peace on its own is not enough to guarantee it. The olive branch symbolizes the nation's character, its soul. It's a reminder that the goal is always to build, to grow, to connect like the leaves and fruit on a living branch. It speaks to a future of prosperity and harmony, not just for America, but for the world it engages with. It is America's open invitation to the world. Let us seek peace together. So, as we look at this elegant branch with its 13 leaves and 13 olives, we see more than just a symbol. We see a promise. A promise to always seek the path of peace first. A declaration that the strength of the nation is not just in its power, but in its principles. And one of its most cherished principles is the enduring hope for a peaceful world. It's a beautiful, optimistic message, but it's only half of the eagle's story. To understand the full picture of American philosophy, we must now look to the eagle's other talon. What happens when the offer of peace is rejected? The answer lies in the bundle of arrows, which we'll explore in our next chapter. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the symbols that define a nation. If you're finding this journey as fascinating as I am, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you won't miss what's coming next. Your support means the world. See you in the next chapter. Welcome back to our series, where we unravel the hidden stories woven into the symbols that define us. Today, we're diving deep into Chapter 8, War and Peace in Balance. We, LLB, looking at one of the most powerful symbols of the United States, the Great Seal. You've seen it everywhere, from the back of the dollar bill to official documents. But have you ever truly looked at it, really examined the details? There's a profound story there, a deliberate message crafted by the nation's founders about its very soul. At the heart of the seal is a majestic bald eagle. In one talon, it clutches a bundle of 13 arrows. In the other, an olive branch with 13 leaves and 13 olives. Arrows and an olive branch war. And peace. It's a classic representation of a nation's dual capacity for conflict and diplomacy. But the real genius, the subtle detail that changes everything, is the direction the eagle is looking. Look closely. The eagle's head is turned towards the olive branch, not the arrows. This isn't an accident. It's a carefully considered design choice, a powerful statement of intent. The message is clear. While we are prepared for war, we will always prefer peace. Our gaze is fixed on harmony, on resolution, on building bridges, not burning them. The arrows are there, a somber reminder of our strength and our readiness to defend our liberties. But they are not our focus. They are the last resort, not the first impulse. This single detail is a mirror reflecting the core ideals of the nation's founding. The men who designed this seal had just emerged from the crucible of the Revolutionary War. They knew the cost of conflict intimately. They weren't glorifying war. They were building a nation that they hoped would be a beacon of reason and peace in a world often torn apart by strife. They envisioned a country that was strong, yes, but not aggressive, courageous, but not belligerent. Think about the philosophy of the time, the Enlightenment ideals that fueled the American Revolution. It was about creating a more perfect union, a government that derived its just powers from the consent of the governed. It was about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. War is the antithesis of that pursuit. It brings death, curtails liberty, and destroys happiness. The founders understood this, so when they created their national emblem, they enshrined this understanding in its very design. The eagle's gaze is a perpetual instruction to future generations. Seek peace. This philosophy of peace through strength is a delicate balance. The olive branch isn't held by a defenseless dove. It's held by a powerful eagle, fully armed. This communicates that our desire for peace is not born from weakness or naivety. It's a conscious choice made from a position of security and self. We have the capacity for war, which is precisely why we can so earnestly advocate for peace. It is the idea that a strong defense is the best way to ensure you never have to use it. The nation doesn't seek conflict, but it will not shrink from it if its values and its people are threatened. This design also speaks volumes about the character of the nation the founders hoped to build. A nation that leads with diplomacy, that extends the hand of friendship first. A nation that values dialogue over destruction. The eagle's posture says, let's talk. Let's find common ground. Let's work this out. Only if that offer is rejected, only if the olive branch is spurned, will the nation turn its attention to the arrows held in the other talon. Interestingly, this wasn't always the case. In some early versions of the seal, and during certain periods of history reflected in coinage or military insignia, the eagle's head has been depicted facing the arrows. This usually happened during times of intense conflict, like the Civil War or the World Wars. It's a fascinating historical footnote, showing how the national mood and priorities can shift the interpretation of its own symbols. When the nation was at war, its symbolic focus shifted towards the necessity of that conflict. However, the official Great Seal, the one that represents the enduring spirit of the nation, has remained constant. In 1945, President Truman issued an executive order standardizing the design of the presidential seal and flag, explicitly stating that the eagle should once and for all face the olive branch. This was right after World War II, a time when the world had seen the most devastating conflict in human history. It was a reaffirmation, a doubling down on the founding principle. Even after the greatest of wars, our ultimate goal is, and must be, peace. This symbolic choice is more than just a piece of historical trivia. It's a moral compass. It's a reminder for leaders and citizens alike about our nation's highest aspirations. In a world that is often loud with the drums of war, the Great Seal offers a quiet but firm counter-narrative. It tells us that true strength lies not in the eagerness to fight, but in the wisdom to seek peace. It's about having courage without aggression, power with restraint. As we look at the challenges facing the world today, this message is more relevant than ever. The eagle's gaze towards the olive branch is a timeless call to action. It urges us to pursue diplomatic solutions, to foster understanding, and to remember that our shared humanity is always more powerful than the things that divide us. It's a legacy of peace, a foundational principle, literally etched in silver and stamped on our most important documents. So, The next time you pull a dollar bill out of your pocket, take a moment to look at it. See past the monetary value and see the story it tells. See the eagle, the arrows, and the olive branch. And most importantly, see where it's looking. It's looking towards a better way, a more peaceful world. That is the promise and the challenge left to us by the founders. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into our shared history and symbolism. If you found this interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more chapters. We love hearing from you. So drop your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious. Hello and welcome back to our series exploring the hidden meanings behind America's greatest symbols. Today, we're diving deep into Chapter 9, the Shield of the Union. If you've ever looked closely at the Great Seal of the United States, you've probably noticed the majestic eagle at its center. And right on that eagle-less breast is a powerful symbol we're going to unpack today. The shield. Now, this isn't just any shield. It's a very specific and deliberate design, and every single part of it tells a story. At first glance, you see 13 vertical stripes of on-white and 6 red that make up the main body of the shield. Just above them sits a solid blue bar that stretches across the top. This entire design is what's known in heraldry, the art of creating coats of arms, as the escutcheon. So, what do these elements mean? Let's start with those 13 stripes. As you might have guessed, they represent the original 13 colonies that rebelled against British rule and came together to form a new nation. Think of them: Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Georgia, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maryland, South Carolina, New Hampshire, Virginia, New York, North Carolina, and Rhode Island. Each stripe is a stand-in for one of these founding states, a visual reminder of the building blocks of the United States. But why red and white? These colors weren't chosen at random. They're deeply symbolic. White traditionally represents purity and innocence. It speaks to the ideals of the new nation, a country founded on principles of liberty and justice, untainted by the corruption of the old world. Red, on the other hand, symbolizes hardiness and valor. It represents the courage, the strength, and the blood shed by the colonists in their fight for independence. When you see those red and white stripes together, you're looking at a visual representation of the pure ideals and the brave sacrifices that built America. Notice how the stripes are vertical. This is also significant. They stand upright, side by side, supporting what's above them. This arrangement suggests strength derived from unity. Each state, like each stripe, is distinct, yet they stand together, shouldering a common purpose. It's a beautiful metaphor for how the individual states, while sovereign in their own right, combine their strength to form a cohesive and resilient whole. Now, let's look at that blue bar at the top. This is called the chief in heraldry. The chief sits above the stripes, binding them together. This blue field represents the federal government, born out of the Constitution. It signifies Congress, the President, and the courts, the unified governing body that the states agreed to create. The color blue itself is packed with meaning. It stands for vigilance, perseverance, and justice. These are the qualities expected of the government. It must be vigilant in protecting the rights of its citizens, perseverant in the face of challenges, and just in its application of the law. The blue chief, therefore, is a symbol of the authority and the responsibility of the central government, which unites the separate states under one national banner. So, when you put it all together, the shield tells a powerful story of unification. You have the 13 states, represented by the red and white stripes, each with their own identity and history. But they aren't just a loose collection. They are bound together and supported by a common government, the blue chief. The shield on the eagle-less breast is a visual declaration that the United States is a nation where individual states join together to form a single, strong republic. The phrase, e pluribus unum, out of many, one is perfectly captured in this simple yet profound design. It's also important to note what the shield asterisk does an asterisk have. Look closely. There are no external supporters holding it up. On the Great Seal, the shield is borne solely on the breast of the American eagle. The message here is clear and inspiring. The United States relies on its own virtue and strength. It stands on its own, independent and self-sufficient, not needing the support of any foreign power to maintain its existence. The eagle, a symbol of strength and freedom, carries this shield, signifying that the nation itself defends and upholds the principles of this union. This symbolism was incredibly important to the founders. They were creating something new, a republic in a world of monarchies. They needed symbols that would convey their vision not just to their own citizens, but to the entire world. The shield was their way of saying, "We are 13 independent states, but we have chosen to unite under a single government. We stand together, strong and self-reliant, dedicated to the ideals of liberty and justice." Every time you see this shield, whether it's on a dollar bill, a government building, or a military uniform, you're seeing a compact, powerful lesson in American civics. It's the story of how 13 disparate colonies, with their own economies, cultures, and interests, made the momentous decision to become one nation. The stripes represent the pluribus, the many. The blue chief represents the unum, the one, and together they form a shield, a symbol of collective defense, unity, and the enduring strength of the American experiment. It's a testament to the idea that there is immense power in unity, that by coming together for a common cause, a group can achieve far more than any individual part could alone. The shield of the Union is not just a piece of heraldry, it's the very heart of the American identity, beautifully and simply displayed for all to see. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the shield of the United States. I hope you found it as fascinating as I do. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next chapter. We have so much more to explore together. See you next time. Welcome to Chapter 10 of our journey. Today, we turn our gaze to a phrase that echoes through the very soul of America, held in the beak of the mighty bald eagle on the Great Seal. E pluribus unum. 3 simple Latin words that translate to a profound and powerful idea. Out of many, one. This isn't just a motto, it's a poetic declaration, a principle that has shaped a nation. Imagine, for a moment, the time of its creation, the late 18th century, 13 colonies, each with its own distinct identity, its own culture, and its own interests, were embarking on a revolutionary experiment. They were separate, diverse, and sometimes contentious. How could such a varied group come together to form a single, cohesive nation? The answer lies within this very phrase. It was a promise and a prayer, all at once. Let's look closer at the symbolism. In one of its talons, the eagle clutches a bundle of 13 arrows. These arrows aren't loose. They're bound together. Individually, an arrow is easily broken, but bound as one, they represent formidable strength. Each arrow symbolizes one of the original 13 states from Massachusetts to Georgia. They were different, yes, but they shared a common purpose: the pursuit of liberty and the creation of a new republic. The arrows signify that the states, while retaining their individuality, derive their collective strength from their union. It's a powerful visual metaphor for the idea that there is strength in unity, a concept crucial for the survival of the fledgling nation. Now, shift your focus to the eagle's other talon. It holds an olive branch, adorned with 13 leaves and 13 olives. This is the counterpart to the arrows. While the arrows represent the strength and readiness to defend their union, the olive branch symbolizes the nation's deep and abiding desire for peace. The eagle, importantly, has its head turned towards the olive branch, indicating a preference for peace over conflict. This balance is key. The founders understood that a nation must be strong enough to protect itself, but that its ultimate goal should always be peace and diplomacy. The 13 leaves and olives once again echo the 13 original states, showing that this desire for peace is a unified national aspiration. So, we have the arrows of war and the olive branch of peace, both representing the 13 states, and floating above it all, connecting everything, is the scroll with the pluribus unum. The motto is the philosophical glue that binds these two powerful symbols together. It explains how 13 separate entities, with all their differences, can unite to become a single republic, strong in defense and dedicated to peace. It's the story of how a multitude of voices, backgrounds, and perspectives can harmonize to sing a single song of nationhood. This concept wasn't born in a vacuum. It drew from a long history of political and philosophical thought. The idea that a collective can be stronger than its individual parts is as old as civilization itself. But for America, it took on a unique meaning. It wasn't about erasing the identities of the individual states or their people. It was about weaving them together into a richer, more complex tapestry. Think of a mosaic. Each tiny, colored piece of stone is unique and beautiful on its own. But when an artist arranges them together, they form a picture far grander and more magnificent than any single piece could ever be. That is the essence of E pluribus unum. The motto first appeared in popular culture long before it was on the Great Seal. It was featured on the title page of a popular yearly magazine called The Gentleman's magazine, which collected articles from many different sources into one publication. So, the idea of creating one out of many sources was already familiar. When the time came to create a seal for the new United States, this phrase was a perfect fit. It captured the spirit of the American experiment, taking people from many nations, with many beliefs, and forging a new, unified identity. Over the centuries, the meaning of E pluribus unum has evolved and deepened. It's no longer just about 13 colonies becoming one nation. Today, it speaks to the incredible diversity of the American people. It's a reminder that from countless countries, cultures, and walks of life, a single national identity is forged. It's a continuous process, a constant striving to find unity in our diversity, to find common ground amidst our differences. It is a challenge that every generation of Americans faces. How do we honor the many while strengthening the unum, the one? This motto serves as a guiding star. It reminds us that our differences are not a weakness. They are the source of our strength, our innovation, and our resilience. It's a call to listen to one another, to learn from one another, and to remember that despite our varied paths, we are all part of the same journey. The eagle on the seal doesn't just carry a phrase. It carries the foundational promise of a nation. Out of many, one is more than a motto. It is the ongoing story of America. Thank you so much for joining me for this chapter. I hope this exploration has given you a deeper appreciation for the powerful words that help define a nation. If you found this interesting, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more journeys into the stories behind the symbols. We'll see you in the next chapter. Hello, and welcome back to our deep dive into the Great Seal of the United States. In this chapter, we turn our gaze upward to the heavens depicted on this incredible emblem. Look closely, just above the eagle's head. What do you see? A glorious burst of light, a cloud, and within it, a constellation of 13 stars. This isn't just a random assortment of celestial bodies. It's a powerful and poetic statement. This is Chapter 11, Stars Above a Constellation of Hope. Let's break down this celestial imagery. The official description from 1782 calls it a glory, breaking through a cloud over the head of the eagle, a constellation of 13 stars. The glory is that beautiful sunburst, representing the divine or the sublime breaking through the challenges and uncertainties, symbolized by the cloud. It's a classic artistic motif, signifying a moment of revelation, of a new dawn. But the real heart of this chapter is the constellation itself. Why a constellation? Why not just a circle of stars, or a line? A constellation implies a fixed, recognized pattern in the heavens. For centuries, humanity has looked to the stars to navigate, to tell stories, and to understand its place in the universe. By arranging the 13 stars into a single constellation, the founders were making a profound declaration. They were saying that this new entity, the United States, composed of its 13 original states, was now taking its rightful and permanent place among the other sovereign nations of the world. Just as Orion or the Big Dipper has a fixed and respected place in the night sky, so too would the United States have its place on the world stage. Think about the sheer audacity and optimism of this symbol. In 1782, the United States was a young, fragile republic, still fighting for its existence. Yet, its chosen emblem didn't depict weakness or uncertainty. Instead, it looked to the cosmos and declared its own permanence. The stars, shining together, represent unity. They aren't just 13 individual points of light. They form a single, cohesive shape. This was a message to the states themselves. You are stronger together. You form one single, brilliant constellation. Notice the pattern. While early depictions varied, the most common and official version shows the stars arranged in the shape of a hexagram, or a six-pointed star. This Star of David formation is created by two overlapping triangles. This design is not only visually balanced and elegant, but it's also incredibly symbolic. It can be interpreted as representing the coming together of different elements to create a harmonious whole. Reinforcing that theme of E, the individual states, with their own identities, join to form a new, greater national identity. This arrangement also creates a sense of order and divine providence. It's a structured, geometric pattern, not a chaotic jumble. This suggests that the formation of the United States was not an accident of history, but part of a larger, perhaps even divinely guided, plan. The new nation was meant to be a beacon, a guiding star for others who might seek freedom and self. It was a constellation of hope. This symbol of the constellation connects directly to the motto on the scroll in the eagle's beak: E pluribus unum, de many stars. Pluribus form one, constellation unum. It's a visual representation of the nation's founding principle. Each state retains its identity, its own light, but contributes to the brilliance of the whole. The light from this constellation, breaking through the clouds, is meant to shine forth, illuminating the path for the new republic and for the world. So, as we look at these 13 stars, we're not just seeing a historical reference to the original colonies. We are seeing a bold declaration of sovereignty. We're seeing a powerful call for unity. And we're seeing an enduring symbol of hope, the belief that a new nation, founded on principles of liberty and cooperation, could take its place among the great powers of the world and shine brightly for all to see. It's a message that was powerful then and continues to inspire today. The United States was not just another country. It was a new star in the firmament of nations. Thank you so much for joining me on this chapter of our journey. It's truly amazing how much meaning is packed into every single element of the Great Seal. If you're enjoying this series, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel so you don't want to miss our next chapter. We love having you as part of our community. See you next time. Alright everyone, welcome back to our deep dive into the symbols that shape history. So far, we've explored the front, or obverse, of the Great Seal of the United States. We've talked about that majestic bald eagle, the shield, the olive branch, and the arrows. It's an image many of us recognize instantly. But what about the other side? The reverse side is where things get even more intriguing, and it's a side that far fewer people have seen or understand. So, let's flip the seal over. What we find here is dominated by a single, powerful image, an unfinished pyramid. This isn't just some random architectural drawing. Every single element is dripping with meaning, telling a story of aspiration, destiny, and a work in progress. It's a symbol that speaks not just of where the nation came from, but where it was intended to go. The first thing you'll notice are the layers of the pyramid. If you count them, you'll find there are exactly 13 rows of stone blocks. Sound familiar? Just like the 13 stripes on the shield, the 13 leaves on the olive branch, and the 13 arrows. This number is a direct nod to the 13 original colonies that rebelled against British rule and formed the United States. Each block represents one of these foundational states, the building blocks of a new nation. But look closer. The pyramid is broad at its base, firmly planted on the ground. This signifies strength and a solid foundation. These colonies, diverse as they were, came together to create something strong and enduring. The structure is built brick by brick, layer by layer, symbolizing the effort, the hard work, and the gradual process of building a nation. It wasn't an overnight success. It was a deliberate construction, a conscious effort by people with a shared vision. At the very bottom of the pyramid, inscribed on the first layer of stones, you'll see a date written in Roman numerals. MDCCL. We get 1776. This, of course, is the year the Declaration of Independence was signed. This isn't just a random date. It's the cornerstone of the entire structure. It marks the very beginning of the American experiment, the moment the foundation was laid for this new republic, by placing it at the base. The designers were saying that everything built upon Itadanta, nation rests on the principles of liberty and self-governance declared in that year. Now, let's address the most striking feature of this pyramid. It's unfinished. The top is flat, open, and incomplete. This is perhaps the most profound part of the symbol. It wasn't a mistake or an oversight. The designers intentionally left it this way to convey a powerful message. The United States was, and is, a project under continuous construction. The work of building a more perfect union is never truly done. This unfinished state represents future growth, progress, and the ongoing journey toward the ideals the nation was founded upon. It acknowledges that the founders, for all their wisdom, were just starting the project. Each subsequent generation has the responsibility to add another metaphorical stone to the pyramid, to build upon the foundation and continue the work. It's a humble admission that perfection hasn't been reached, but it's also a powerful call to action, an invitation for future Americans to contribute to the nation's development. The idea is that the nation should always be striving, always improving, and never becoming complacent. The unfinished pyramid is a visual reminder that the American story is an ongoing narrative, not a closed book. It suggests a dynamic and evolving society, one that is always reaching for something greater. It implies that the nation's potential is limitless, as long as its people continue to build. And what's meant to cap this pyramid, floating just above the unfinished top, encased in a brilliant triangle of light, is the Eye of Providence, or the all-seeing eye. We'll dedicate our entire next chapter to this fascinating and often misunderstood symbol, because it's the key that unlocks the ultimate meaning of this entire side of the seal. It represents divine guidance and benevolent oversight watching over the American endeavor. The eye observes the work being done below, suggesting that the nation's construction is part of a grander, divinely sanctioned plan. So, when we look at the unfinished pyramid, we see a story of origins, construction, and aspiration. It honors the original 13 colonies as the strong foundation. It grounds the entire nation in the revolutionary ideals of 1776. And most importantly, its incomplete nature serves as a perpetual challenge to every citizen. The work isn't finished. The task of building a better nation is passed down through generations. It's a symbol not of what America was, but of what it has the potential to become. It's a truly powerful and optimistic vision, don't you think? It suggests that the best is yet to come, and that the responsibility for getting there rests on the shoulders of the living. It is a visual representation of the phrase from the preamble to the Constitution, to form a more perfect union. Not a perfect union, but a asterisk. More. Asterisk perfect one. The process is the point. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of the unfinished pyramid. It's a symbol that holds so much of the American spirit within its stone layers. In our next video, we'll finally look up into the light and decode the mysteries of the all-seeing eye that completes this incredible picture. You won't want to miss it. If you enjoyed this and learned something new, please hit that like button and be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter. We truly appreciate your support. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep looking for the meaning hidden in plain sight. Have you ever really looked at a $1 bill? Beyond its value, it holds a story, a symbol of a nation's hopeful beginnings. Today, let's journey into one of its most mysterious and debated symbols, the Eye of Providence. Look closely at the back of the bill. There it is, floating above an unfinished pyramid, a single, watchful eye, enclosed in a triangle and radiating beams of light. This isn't just some random doodle. It's a powerful emblem that speaks volumes about the ideals of America's founders. The pyramid itself is fascinating. It has 13 steps, representing the original 13 colonies. Notice how it's unfinished? This was intentional. It symbolizes a nation still under construction, with room to grow, to build, to strive for a more perfect union. It's a perpetual work in progress, a testament to the belief that the nation's future was, and still is, being built. And hovering above it all is that glowing eye. This is the Eye of Providence. The word providence itself means divine guidance or care. So, this isn't an eye of surveillance or control, but one of benevolent oversight. It represents the belief to the founders that a higher power was watching over the American experiment, guiding its path and favoring its journey. Think about the time this was designed. The late 18th century was of immense change and uncertainty. A group of colonies had just dared to declare independence from the most powerful empire on Earth. The future was anything but guaranteed. They were stepping into the unknown, are met with little more than ideals and a shared hope. In that context, the Eye of Providence becomes a profound symbol of faith. It's a visual prayer, a declaration that their risky endeavor was not just a political gamble, but a divinely guided mission. The light of phytos from the eye reinforce this idea. It's like a beacon, illuminating the path forward. It suggests enlightenment, razo, and clarity, casting away the shadows of tyranny and ignorance they believed they were leaving behind. The eye isn't just passively watching, it's actively bestowing wisdom and blessing upon the young nation. The triangle of phytos, the eye, known as the, is a classic symbol of the Holy Trinity in Christian tradition, representing the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Its inclusion to the Eye of Providence ties the symbol directly to the Judeo-Christian beliefs held by many of the founders. They saw their new nation's destiny as being intertwined with a divine plan. Now, let's look at the Latin phrases surrounding this imagery. Above the eye, it says, Annuit Cuptis, which translates to, He has favored our undertakings. This is a direct appeal to that divine guidance. It, as a statement, fancy of gratitude, acknowledging that their success wasn't achieved by own strength alone. It is a humble recognition that they believed a higher power approved of cause and was helping them succeed. Below the pyramid, we see Novus Ordo Seclorum, meaning a new order of the ages. This phrase, taken from the Roman poet Virgil, announces the birth of a new era. It's not a new world order in the conspiratorial sense, but a declaration that America represented a fresh start for humanity on era of liberty, self-governance, and opportunity, distinct from the old world monarchies and aristocracies. When you put it all together, the pyramid, the eye, and the mottos tell a cohesive and deeply hopeful story. It's a narrative of destiny. The unfinished pyramid shows the work, and Whitesay Betis gives thanks for the divine favor on that work. And Novus Ordo Seclorum proclaims the grand, world-changing purpose of it all. It's a message that America's journey was not random, but a guided path toward a brighter future. In the early years of the United States, this symbolism would have been incredibly reassuring. It was a constant reminder, held in the palm of your hand, that the nation's struggles were part of a larger, meaningful destiny. It imbued the national project with a sense of sacred purpose. This wasn't just about politics or economics. It was about fulfilling a providential mission. Over time, of course, interpretations have shifted. Some view the eye with suspicion, linking it to secret societies and conspiracy theories. And while some of the founders were indeed Freemasons, where similar symbolism is used. A leaf, Eye of Providence, as a religious symbol, predates its use in Freemasonry by centuries. Its primary meaning on the Great Seal was always intended to be one of divine guidance for the new republic. So, the next time you pull a dollar bill from your wallet, take a moment to look past its monetary value. See it as a small piece of history, a canvas of national principle. See the unfinished pyramid as our ongoing work, and see the Eye of Providence, not as sinister, but as its creators intended. A symbol of hope, a beacon of guidance, and a quiet affirmation that the journey of a nation, like the journey of a person, is often guided by forces greater than ourselves. It is a reminder of a time when a young country dared to believe it was destined for greatness, watched over by a benevolent eye. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into a piece of everyday history. If you found this interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into the symbols that shape our world. We'd love to have you as part of our community. See you in the next video. Welcome back, history detectives and symbol seekers. Today, we re-dive in deeper into the mysteries of the Great Seal of the United States. In Chapter 14, 13 in every corner. If you thought you knew all about the number 13's role in American history, get ready for a surprise. It's hiding in plain sight, woven into the very fabric of the nation's most important symbol. Last time, we touched upon the significance of the original 13 colonies, but the rabbit hole goes so much deeper. The designers of the Great Seal were meticulous, embedding this foundational number everywhere, creating a powerful symphony of unity and origin. It's not just a coincidence, it's a deliberate and beautiful design choice. So, grab your magnifying glass, because we're about to uncover every single one. Let's start with the most obvious one, floating majestically above the eagle's head. Do you see it? A constellation of 13 stars, forming a radiant star of its own. This isn't just a random celestial pattern. It represents a new constellation taking its place among the sovereign nations of the world. Each star is one of the original 13 states, shining together, a symbol of a new, unified power rising. Imagine looking up at the night sky and seeing this formation as a declaration of independence written in the heavens. Now, let's look at what the eagle is holding. In its left talon, it clutches a bundle of 13 arrows. Why 13? And why arrows? The arrows symbolize the readiness to defend the nation's hard-won freedom. They represent might and the willingness to go to war to protect the values these states stand for. But it's crucial that there are 13 of them. It signifies that this is not the strength of a single entity, but the combined, formidable power of all 13 states standing together. If one state is threatened, all 13 will respond. It's a message of collective security, a promise that they are stronger together. In the eagle's right talon, we find a much more peaceful symbol, an olive branch. Count the leaves. That's right, there are 13 of them. And look closely at the branch. How many olives or berries are there? You guessed it, another 13. The olive branch has long been a symbol of peace. By including 13 leaves and 13 berries, the seal is making a profound statement. It declares that the nation's primary desire is for peace, a peace nurtured and sustained by the unity of all 13 states. The eagle's head is turned towards the olive branch, showing a preference for peace. But the arrows are always there, a reminder that peace must be protected. Let's shift our gaze to the shield on the eagle's breast. This shield is unsupported, signifying that the United States relies on its own virtue and strength. On the blue chief at the top, we see the 13 stars again. But look below at the main body of the shield. How many vertical stripes do you see? 7 white and 6 red, for a total of 13 stripes. These stripes represent the 13 states, joined together in a single, cohesive union. It's a visual metaphor for the states supporting the federal government, represented by the blue chief. Each stripe is distinct, yet together they form an unbreakable whole. It's the visual embodiment of the nation's motto. Speaking of which, let's look at the scroll held in the eagle's beak. It bears the iconic Latin motto, E pluribus unam. We all know what it means. Out of many, one. It's the core philosophy of the United States. But have you ever stopped to count the letters? Go ahead. E pluribus UN. 13 letters. Mind-blowing, right? This is perhaps the most brilliant and subtle inclusion of the number. The very phrase that describes the union of the many states into one nation is itself composed of 13 letters. It's like a secret code, a final, definitive stamp of the number's importance, tying the entire narrative together. So let's recap this incredible repetition. We have 13 stars in the constellation, 13 arrows in one talon, 13 leaves and 13 berries on the olive branch in the other, 13 stripes on the shield, and 13 letters in the motto E pluribus unam. That's 6 separate instances, a constant echo of the number 13. Why this intense repetition? Imagine you're a storyteller, and you want to make sure your audience never, ever forgets the main theme of your story. You would repeat it, weave it into every character, every scene, every line of dialogue. That's exactly what the creators of the Great Seal did. Each repetition isn't just a number. It's a verse in a poem about unity. Think about it. The 13 stars tell the story of a new nation appearing in the world. The 13 stripes tell the story of how that nation is structured, with individual states forming a solid foundation. The 13 arrows tell the story of their combined strength and will to defend themselves. The 13 leaves and 13 berries tell the story of their collective desire for a lasting peace. And the 13 letters of E Pluribus Unum perfectly summarize the entire epic tale. Out of these 13 colonies, one incredible nation was born. Each 13 reinforces the others, creating a powerful message that is impossible to ignore. It's a message that says, our origins matter. It reminds every American that the strength, the peace, and the very identity of the nation are rooted in that original union of 13 states. It wasn't just a starting point, it is the enduring principle of the United States. The seal doesn't just show us a picture of an eagle. It tells us the story of America's soul. It's an absolute masterpiece of symbolic design, where every element has a purpose, and that purpose is to celebrate and reinforce the concept of unity born from diversity. The next time you see a $1 bill, take a moment to truly appreciate the incredible story it tells. It's not just money. It's a pocket-sized history lesson and a declaration of national identity. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the hidden language of the Great Seal. It's fascinating what we can uncover when we look a little closer. If you enjoyed this journey into the symbols that define America, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more explorations. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next chapter. See you next time. Hey everyone, and welcome back to our deep dive into American history. Today, we re-jumping into a pivotal moment that often gets overlooked. The day the United States finally got its official seal. We're talking about Chapter 15, the approval of the seal, 1782. For 6 long years, since the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776, the fledgling nation had been without a proper emblem. Imagine trying to sign treaties or make official documents without a seal. It was a serious problem. 3 different committees had been formed, each tasked with designing a seal that could capture the spirit and ideals of this new republic. They brought in artists, thinkers, and politicians. But every proposal, from complex allegorical scenes to simpler heraldic designs, was met with debate and ultimately rejection. It seemed like an impossible task. The designs were either too European, too complicated, or just didn't feel right for a nation forging a brand new identity. By the spring of 1782, Congress was getting impatient. The Revolutionary War was winding down, and the need for an official seal to ratify the Treaty of Paris was more urgent than ever. The responsibility was handed over to the Secretary of the Continental Congress, a man whose name you should definitely know, Charles Thomson. Now, Thomson wasn't an artist or a heraldry expert by trade. He was a dedicated patriot, a scholar, and a man known for his meticulous and practical nature. Ad Perpetual Secretary of Congress, recording every debate and decision since 1774. He had seen every failed proposal, read every critique, and understood the political and philosophical currents of the time better than almost anyone. He was the perfect person to finally cut through the years of deadlock. Congress gave Thomson all the previous designs and reports. He took elements he found powerful from each of the 3 committees. From the first committee's design, he liked the idea of the Eye of Providence and the motto E Pluribus Unum, out of many, one. From the 3rd committee's proposal, created by a young lawyer named William Barton, he was drawn to the American bald eagle. But Barton's eagle was a bit different. It was a smaller, less prominent feature. Thomson, in a stroke of genius, decided to make the eagle the star of the show. He took Barton Esigu and made it the central, dominant figure on the front, or the obverse, of the seal. He described it as an American eagle on the wing and rising, a powerful symbol of a nation taking flight. He placed an escutcheon, a shield, on the eagle's breast. This shield was unsupported, signifying that the United States stood on its own, relying on its own virtue. The 13 red and white stripes on the shield represented the 13 states, united under a blue chief, which represented Congress. In its right talon, Thomson placed an olive branch with 13 leaves and 13 olives, symbolizing the power of peace. In its left talon, he placed a bundle of 13 arrows, symbolizing the power of war. The eagle's head is turned towards the olive branch, showing the nation's preference for peace, but acknowledging its readiness to defend itself. Above the eagle's head, he placed a glory or a burst of light breaking through a cloud. Within this glory is a constellation of 13 stars, forming a single, larger star. Another visual representation of E Pluribus. But Thomson wasn't done. He also created a design for the reverse side of the seal, something none of the other committees had quite managed to perfect. He took the idea of an unfinished pyramid from one of the earlier proposals. This pyramid, with 13 steps, represented strength and duration, but its unfinished state signified that the nation was still a work in progress, with room to grow. At the top, he placed the Eye of Providence within a triangle, watching over the nation's endeavors. Above this, he added the motto, Annuit Cuptus, meaning, He, God, has favored our undertakings. And below the pyramid, on a scroll, he placed the famous phrase, Novus Ordo Seclorum, which translates to a new order of the ages, heralding the beginning of a new American era. On June 20th, 1782, Charles Thomson presented his final report and sketches to Congress. After 6 years of debate, after countless revisions and rejections, something incredible happened. Congress approved Thomson's design on the very same day. There were no further committees, no more debates. It was done. Thomson's synthesis of the best ideas from the past, combined with his own clear, powerful symbolism, had finally given the United States its identity in visual form. The design was then handed to a Philadelphia engraver to create the first eye, and by September of that year, the Great Seal was used for the first time to verify signatures on a document authorizing General George Washington to negotiate a prisoner exchange. It was a historic moment. The seal that had taken so long to create was finally fulfilling its purpose, representing the authority and sovereignty of the United States of America on the world stage. And that is the story of June 20th, 1780, Tooth a Day. A dedicated public servant named Charles Thomson took 6 years of stalled ideas and masterfully wove them into the enduring symbol we all recognize today. The Great Seal isn't just a pretty picture. It's a narrative of our nation's birth, its values, and its aspirations, all captured in a single, brilliant design. Thanks so much for watching and exploring this piece of history with me. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next chapter. We'll see you in the next video. Hello, history buffs and curious minds. Welcome back to our channel. Today, we re-journeying back to the dawn of the United States to uncover the story of a powerful symbol, the Great Seal. It's more than just an emblem. It was the physical embodiment of the nation's word, its honor, and its promises. So, how did a simple design on a piece of metal become the ultimate mark of American authority? Let's find out. After its adoption in 1782, the Great Seal wasn't just stored away in a vault. It was immediately put to work. Its primary keeper was the Secretary of Congress, Charles Thomson, who was entrusted with this profound responsibility. Imagine the scene. A fledgling nation, still finding its footing on the world stage, needing to prove its legitimacy. The Great Seal was its primary tool for doing just that. Its very first documented use was truly momentous. On September 16, 1782, Thomson affixed the seal to a document that gave General George Washington full power to negotiate and sign an agreement for the exchange of prisoners of war with Great Britain. Think about that. The first act sealed by this new nation was one of diplomacy and humanity, a move to bring soldiers home. It wasn't a declaration of conquest, but an act of structured negotiation. This set a powerful precedent for what the seal would represent. The process itself was a ceremony of sorts. It wasn't just a quick stamp. A special mixture of red wax and shellac, known as macaroni, was melted. This molten, ruby-red liquid was then poured onto the document, often next to the signatures of the nation's leaders. A paper wafer, sometimes white, sometimes blue, would be placed over the wax. Then came the crucial moment. A screw press, a hefty piece of machinery, was used to slowly and deliberately lower the die of the Great Seal onto the paper and wax. As the immense pressure was applied, the intricate design of the eagle, the shield, and the olive branch was permanently impressed into the cooling wax. The result was a crisp, three-dimensional seal. a tactile representation of the nation's pledge. Each impression was a unique work of art, a seal of trust made tangible. Of all the documents graced by the Great Seal, perhaps none were more important than international treaties. When the United States made a promise to another sovereign nation, that promise was literally sealed. The most famous early example is the Treaty of Paris, signed in 1783. This was the document that officially ended the Revolutionary War and secured American independence. Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and John Jay signed it in Paris. But the final, official American ratification version that confirmed the nation's acceptance of the terms was back in the United States with the Great Seal. Picture that document arriving back across the Atlantic. The fate of a nation rested on its acceptance. When Charles Thomson pressed that seal onto the ratification papers, he wasn't just performing an administrative task. He was closing the chapter on war and sealing the promise of a peaceful future. The eagle, holding an olive branch with 13 leaves and 13 arrows, was a constant reminder. America desired peace, but was prepared to defend its sovereignty. Affixing the seal was a declaration to the world that America's word was its bond. Every treaty, whether for trade, territory, or peace, bore this mark, a universal symbol of the nation's commitment. But the seal's use wasn't limited to grand international agreements. It played a vital role in the lives of individual citizens as well, particularly through passports. In the 18th and early 19th centuries, international travel was an arduous undertaking. An American citizen abroad needed proof of their identity and nationality. A passport was more than just an ID. It was a letter of introduction and a request for safe passage, issued under the authority of the United States. These early passports were beautiful, single-sheet documents, often filled out by hand, and what gave them their undeniable authority? The Great Seal. An impression of the seal, typically made on a paper wafer affixed to the document, transformed it from a simple letter into an official state document. It told foreign officials, "This person is under the protection of the United States of America." It was a shield for the traveler, a portable piece of American sovereignty. The seal on a passport was a promise of protection from the nation to its citizen, wherever they might be in the world. It was a personal connection between the individual and the government, all embodied in that single, elegant impression. Beyond treaties and passports, the Great Seal authenticated a wide range of official documents, becoming the heartbeat of the federal government's administrative functions. Think of presidential proclamations, the official announcements made by the president to the public. To give these proclamations the force of law and unquestionable authority, they were sealed. Thanksgiving proclamations, calls for days of prayer, and other national directives all bore the mark. Similarly, when the nation expanded, the seal played a key role. Land grants, the legal documents that transferred ownership of federal land to states or individuals, were often authenticated with a Great Seal. This was crucial in a time when land ownership was a primary source of wealth and stability. A sealed document was a guarantee from the federal government that the title was clear and legitimate. Eterned, bust untamed territories, interlegally recognized property, fueling westward expansion and the growth of the nation. The process of appointing officials to run the new government also relied on the seal. Commissions for cabinet members, ambassadors, judges, and military officers were all made official with an impression of the Great Seal. When Thomas Jefferson appointed a new minister to France, or when George Washington commissioned an officer in the Continental Army, the document they received was not just a piece of paper. It was a sealed testament to their authority, granted by the nation itself. It signified that they were acting not on their own behalf, but as representatives of the United States. What's truly poetic is the imagery of it all. In an age before digital signatures and encrypted files, trust was built on physical acts. The act of sealing was a deliberate, solemn process. The warm, pliable wax represented the nation's willingness to engage, to make a promise. The press, with its immense force, symbolized the gravity and permanence of that commitment. And the final, hardened seal was the unbreakable result, the nation's promise, set in stone, or rather, in wax. It was a visual and tactile metaphor for the nation's integrity. Etched documents sealed with care was a dispatch of trust sent out into the world. So, from securing peace after a long war to protecting a lone traveler in a foreign land, The Great Seal of the United States was a constant, powerful presence in early America. It was the signature of the nation, a mark of authenticity that was universally understood and respected. It helped build the reputation of the United States as a nation that kept its word, a country built on law, order, and solemn promises. It's a tradition of trust and authority that continues to this very day. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into our nation's past. I hope you found the story of the Great Seal as fascinating as I do. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next chapter. We'll see you next time. Ever taken a close look at a $1 bill? I mean, a really close look. We see them every day. But have you ever wondered about the story behind those two strange circles on the back? One side has a majestic eagle, and the other, an unfinished pyramid with an eye floating above it. It's a design that feels ancient and mysterious, yet it's as American as apple pie. So, how did this incredible symbol, the Great Seal of the United States, end up on our money? And what does it all mean? Well, grab a dollar, and let's dive into one of the most fascinating stories in American history. The story starts way back, but the chapter we're focusing on begins in 1935. Believe it or not, for over 150 years after the Great Seal was adopted, most Americans had never even seen the pyramid side. The eagle was familiar, stamped on documents and official buildings. But the pyramid, it was practically a hidden national treasure. So what changed? The answer lies with two key figures: President Franklin D. Roosevelt and his Secretary of Agriculture, Henry A. Wallace. Wallace was deeply interested in history, philosophy, and symbolism. One day, he came across a 1909 publication that showed both sides of the Great Seal. He was captivated by the pyramid, especially the Latin phrase, Novus Ordo Seclorum, which translates to a new order of the ages. He felt this phrase perfectly captured the spirit of Roosevelt's New Della Bold, new beginning for America. During the Great Depression, he thought, this is it. This is the spirit of our time. He knew we had to share this idea with the president. So, Wallace took his idea straight to the White House. He presented the concept to Roosevelt, suggesting that both sides of the Great Seal should be featured on a coin. He explained the powerful symbolism of the new order of the ages and how it resonated with their administration as goals. Roosevelt, a man who appreciated history and grand gestures, was immediately intrigued. He wasn't just a politician. He was a student of history and an avid stamp collector, so he understood the power of a good symbol. As they examined the design, Roosevelt, being a Freemason himself, was particularly struck by the all-seeing eye above the pyramid. He pointed out that in Christian symbolism, the number 13, which appears all over the seal, is often seen as unlucky. But here, it represented the 13 original colonies uniting to form a new nation. He saw the potential not just for a coin, but for something even more widely circulated. He looked at Wallace and said, "Let's put it on the dollar bill." He felt the dollar bill was the perfect canvas. It passes through the hands of every American, a constant, tangible reminder of the nation's foundation and its enduring purpose. And just like that, the decision was made. The Treasury Department got to work, and in 1935, a new $1 silver certificate was issued. For the very first time in American history, the complete Great Seal, with both the eagle and the pyramid, appeared together on our currency. It was a revolutionary moment. Suddenly, this powerful, dual-sided symbol was in the pockets and wallets of millions of Americans. Now, let's talk about the incredible balance of this design. It's not just two random pictures. It's a story told in two parts. On the right, you have the eagle, which represents the material, visible side of America. It's the nation's strength, its power, and its presence in the world. The eagle holds an olive branch in one talon, symbolizing a desire for peace, and a bundle of 13 arrows in the other, showing a readiness to defend that peace. It's a symbol of worldly authority and sovereignty. This is the face America shows to the world strong, sovereign, and prepared. Then, on the left, you have the pyramid side. This represents the spiritual, philosophical, and aspirational side of the nation. It's the unfinished business, the journey, not the destination. The pyramid is uncapped, signifying that the work of building America is never truly complete. There's always more to do, more progress to be made. Above it, the Eye of Providence sits within a triangle, symbolizing divine guidance and the foundational belief that the nation was built on principles that transcend human law. The light radiating from the eye suggests enlightenment and a higher purpose guiding the nation's destiny. When you see them side by side on the dollar bill, you get the complete picture. It's a perfect, harmonious balance. It's the spiritual and the material, the aspiration and the reality, the future and the present. One side says this is who we are, and the other says this is what we strive to be. The eagle is our strength today. The pyramid is our vision for all the tomorrows to come. It's a message that America is not just a geographical location or a government, but an ongoing project, a noble experiment guided by high ideals. Think about the genius of placing this on the dollar bill. Money is often seen as purely material, a tool for commerce, but by imprinting it with the Great Seal, Roosevelt and Wallace infused our currency with a deeper meaning. Every time you make a transaction, you are holding a miniature monument to the American experiment. You are holding a reminder of the nation's dual nature, its worldly power and its spiritual foundation. The phrases on the seal reinforce this. On the pyramid side, and white sepulchres, means he has favored our undertakings, suggesting divine approval for the nation's beginning. And below it, Novus Ordo Seclorum, the new order of the ages, declares the birth of a new era. On the eagle side, E pluribus unum, out of many. One celebrates the unity of the 13 colonies into a single nation. Together, these phrases tell a story of a divinely favored new order, created from the unity of many parts. So, the $1,935 bill wasn't just a redesign. It was a redeclaration of American identity. It brought a hidden piece of our heritage into the light and placed it into the hands of every citizen. It created a beautiful, calm balance between our physical strength and our philosophical ideals. The eagle and the pyramid, together at last, serve as a constant reminder that the United States was founded not just on power, but on a powerful idea. Next time you pull a dollar out of your wallet, take a moment to really look at it. See the eagle and acknowledge the strength and presence of the nation. Then, look at the pyramid and remember the ongoing, unfinished work of creating a more perfect union, guided by timeless principles. It's more than just money. It's a pocket-sized piece of history, philosophy, and national identity. All thanks to a visionary idea that brought two sides of a story together in 1935. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the dollar bill. If you found this as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories hidden in plain sight. Let me know in the comments what other symbols you're curious about. See you in the next video. Hello and welcome back. As we draw our journey through the symbols of America to a close, let's take a moment tonight for a final reflection. Let us talk about those 13 arrows clutched in the eagle's talon on the Great Seal of the United States. It's a powerful image, one we've seen countless times, but how often do we truly stop to consider what it means for us? Right here, right now. Initially, those 13 arrows were a clear nod to the original 13 colonies, a symbol of their united strength and readiness to defend their newfound freedom. It was a declaration to the world: we are united, and we are prepared. This wasn't just about military might. It was about a collective will, a shared determination to forge a new path together. The arrows represented the power that comes from unity, the idea that 13 individual states, when bound together, could achieve what none could alone. Now, fast forward to today. We're a nation of 50 states, a mosaic of hundreds of millions of people from every corner of the globe. Do those 13 arrows still hold any meaning? I believe they do. Perhaps more than ever. They've evolved from representing a specific number of colonies to symbolizing a fundamental American principle: collective resolve. Think about the major challenges we face in the 21st century. They aren't threats that can be met by one state, one city, or one person. Whether we're talking about economic stability, public health crises, technological advancement, or environmental stewardship, the path forward requires a united front. The arrows remind us that our strength doesn't lie in our individual capacity, but in our ability to come together, to bind ourselves in common purpose. When we face a natural disaster, we see this spirit come alive. People from all over the country rally to support those affected. When we strive for a scientific breakthrough, like a new vaccine or a mission to Mars, it's the combined effort of countless minds from diverse backgrounds that makes the impossible possible. That is the modern spirit of the 13 Arrows, a symbol of our shared capacity to face down adversity and build a better future together. It's the spirit of neighbors helping neighbors, of communities organizing for change, of a nation pooling its resources and ingenuity to solve its most pressing problems. But there's a crucial piece of this puzzle we can't ignore. In the eagle's other talon is an olive branch. The arrows are never presented alone. This is the genius of the design and the core of the American ideal. Strength is not meant for aggression. Preparedness is not a call for conflict. The arrows represent our capacity to protect our values, our people, and our way of life. But they are always held in balance with the offer of peace. This duality is a constant, profound challenge. How do we remain strong without becoming belligerent? How do we protect our interests while promoting global harmony? This isn't just a question for our leaders in Washington. It's a question for each of us in our daily lives, in our communities, in our workplaces, even in our own families. How do we stand firm in our convictions while remaining open to dialogue and understanding? How do we hold our personal arrows of principle and self-respect while extending the olive branch of empathy and compromise? This balance is the tightrope walk of a healthy democracy. It requires constant vigilance, conversation, and a willingness to listen. It's easy to clutch the arrows tightly, to see every disagreement as a battle to be won. It's much harder and far more rewarding to remember that the ultimate goal is peace and unity, represented by that olive branch. The eagle on the seal looks towards the olive branch, signifying a preference for peace. This is a powerful instruction. Our strength should be the foundation upon which peace is built, not a tool to dismantle it. So tonight, as we prepare for rest, let's hold this image in our minds. The eagle, with its arrows and its olive branch. It's a symbol not of brute force, but of responsible power. It's a reminder that true strength lies in harmony, the harmony between preparedness and peace, between the individual and the collective, between conviction and compassion. Think about the arrows in your own life, your strengths, your principles, the things you are willing to stand up and defend. And then think about your olive branch, your capacity for kindness, your willingness to listen, your ability to forgive and find common ground. True resilience, both for a nation and for an individual, is found in holding both. It's knowing when to stand firm and when to reach out, when to be strong and when to be gentle. The story of the arrows is a story of unity. It began with 13 colonies becoming one nation, and it continues today with millions of diverse individuals striving to form a more perfect union. Our collective resolve is our greatest asset, the bedrock of our security and our prosperity. But that resolve is most powerful when it is tempered with grace, and when its ultimate aim is not victory, but peace. Let this be our bedtime reflection. Strength held in harmony with peace. May we all find that balance in our own lives, and may we work to build a nation and a world that embodies this noble ideal. Thank you for joining me on this journey through America's symbols. Your curiosity and engagement have made this series truly special. I hope these stories have offered you some new perspectives and a deeper appreciation for the ideas that shape our world. If you've enjoyed this series, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more content like this. It truly helps us continue to create and share these stories. Thank you again for watching. Sleep well, and may your dreams be peaceful. Good night. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our deep dive into the symbols that shape our understanding of history and identity. In our final chapter, we're going to explore something truly profound, the message of unity encoded within the Great Seal of the United States. We've looked at its individual elements, but now, let's bring them all together to understand the powerful, cohesive story they tell. This isn't just about history. It's a message that resonates just as strongly today as it did centuries ago. Let's start with the most prominent feature, the American bald eagle. It's not just a bird. It's a symbol of majesty, freedom, and strength. But look closer at what it holds. In one talon, an olive branch with 13 leaves, and 13 olives, representing the profound and enduring desire for peace. In the other talon, a bundle of 13 arrows, signifying the strength and readiness to defend that peace and the nation's principles. The key here is the balance. The eagle isn't just holding one or the other, it's holding both. This duality is the heart of the seal's message. It communicates that true strength isn't just about military might or the capacity for conflict. It asks about a nation that values peace above all, but is prepared and united to protect its freedoms. Notice, the eagle's head is turned towards the olive branch. This is a deliberate, powerful statement. It signifies a preference for peace, a nation that seeks diplomatic and harmonious solutions first. The arrows are there, but they are the last resort, not the first impulse. It's a sophisticated concept of strength, one rooted in wisdom and restraint, not just brute force. Now, let's look above the eagle's head. We see a constellation of 13 stars, arranged in a way that forms a single, larger star. This is a beautiful and direct visualization of the national motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, one. Each star represents one of the original 13 colonies, each a distinct entity with its own culture, economy, and identity. Yet, they come together, breaking through a cloud into a glorious, unified light. This symbolism is incredibly potent. It suggests that when these individual states unite, they create something greater, brighter, and more powerful than the sum of their parts. The cloud they are breaking through can be interpreted as the obscurity, confusion, and conflict of the past. Unity is what allows them to rise above it, to form a new, cohesive, and brilliant constellation in the sky. This isn't about erasing individual identity. It's about channeling that diversity into a shared purpose. Each star retains its own point of light, but together they form a magnificent, unified whole. The shield on the eagle's chest further reinforces this theme. It has 13 vertical stripes, representing the states, joined together and supported by a solid blue band at the top, which represents Congress and the federal government. The stripes stand side by side, distinct but connected, showing that the states support the chief, and the chief, in turn, unifies them. The shield is unsupported on the seal, signifying that the nation stands on its own, relying on its own virtue and internal unity for its strength and defense. It doesn't need external props or alliances to hold it up. Its foundation is the cohesion of its people and its states. Putting it all together, the Great Seal is a masterful composition of interconnected ideas. The 13 arrows, the 13 stars, the 13 leaves and olives on the branch, the 13 stripes on the shield. This number, representing the original colonies, is woven throughout the entire design. It is a constant reminder of the many that came together to form the one. The motto, E pluribus unum, which scrolls across the banner held in the eagle's beak, isn't just a catchy phrase. It is the central, animating principle of the entire seal. It's the philosophical glue that binds all the other elements together. Out of many states, one nation. Out of many people, one people. Out of many diverse beliefs and backgrounds, a unified society. This message is a timeless and urgent reminder. It tells us that the nation's power, its resilience, and its very survival depend not on division, but on unity. It's a call to look past our differences and find common ground. The seal doesn't depict a nation where everyone is the same. It depicts a nation where different, distinct parts choose to come together for a common purpose, creating a strength that none could achieve alone. The stars are separate, the stripes are distinct, but their power comes from their arrangement and their connection. In today's world, where it can be easy to focus on what divides us, the Great Seal offers a calm, confident, and profound statement that our greatest strength has always been, and will always be, our ability to unite. The founders of the nation, in designing this seal, weren't just creating a logo, they were embedding a manual, a philosophical guide for future generations. They were telling us that the pursuit of peace, backed by the strength of a united people, is the path to a lasting and prosperous republic. The message is clear. The arrows of defense are necessary, but they are held in concert with the olive branch of peace. The individual stars are beautiful, but they shine brightest when they form a single constellation. The separate states have their own integrity, but they are strongest when bound together under a common chief. This is the ultimate lesson of the Great Seal. It is an enduring symbol of a nation conceived in the idea that unity is not the absence of diversity, but the harmonious joining of it. It's a reminder that in the grand project of building a nation, the most powerful force we have is each other. The seal challenges us to live up to its promise, to embody a pluribus unum, not just as a motto, but as a lived reality. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the rich symbolism of the Great Seal. It's been a privilege to explore these layers of meaning with you. If you've enjoyed this series and want to see more content like it, please consider liking this video, leaving a comment with your thoughts, and subscribing to the channel. It truly helps us continue creating this content for you. Until next time, take care and stay curious. And so, we arrive at the end of our journey, not with a bang, but with a quiet, profound stillness. The Great Seal of the United States, once a symbol of a revolution's fiery birth, now rests in quiet dignity all around us. It's a presence so constant, we often overlook it. Take a moment, reach into your pocket, and pull out a dollar bill. There it is. Look closer. Feel the texture of the paper, the intricate lines of the engraving. On the back, both sides of the seal are present. The unfinished pyramid, reaching for the heavens under the watchful eye of Providence. A testament to a nation, always striving, always building, never quite complete. It speaks of a future filled with potential, a project of hope that each generation inherits. Then, turn your attention to the American bald eagle. Majestic, fierce. In one talon, an olive branch with 13 leaves and 13 olives, a symbol of our profound desire for peace. In the other, a bundle of 13 arrows, a stark reminder of the strength and resolve required to defend that peace. Notice, the eagle's head is turned towards the olive branch. This was a deliberate choice, a powerful statement that this new nation would always prefer peace over conflict. It's not a symbol of weakness, but of considered strength. This quiet guardian doesn't just live on our currency. It lives in the world. Picture the imposing doors of an American embassy in a foreign capital. There, embossed in brass or carved in stone, is the Great Seal. It's a silent declaration to the world. Here stands a piece of the United States. Here, you will find the ideals we hold dear. It's a symbol of diplomacy, of outstretched hands, of a nation seeking its place among other nations not just through power, but through partnership and mutual respect. For the ambassador inside, for the visitor seeking refuge or opportunity, that seal is a beacon. It promises a connection to a land built on the principles of liberty and justice. It is America's signature on the global stage. Now, imagine the Oval Office, the heart of American executive power. A document is placed on the resolute desk, a bill to be signed into law, a treaty to be ratified, a proclamation that will affect millions. The president picks up a pen, but before that signature, there is often the press of the seal, an embossed, raised impression on the paper, making the document official. It is a physical act that connects the present moment all the way back to 1782. It links the current administration to the legacy of Washington, Jefferson, and Adams. When that seal is pressed, it's as if the voices of the founders are whispering their approval, reminding the leader of the immense responsibility they hold. It's the nation's ultimate mark of authenticity, turning mere paper into a binding commitment. It signifies that this is not the act of one person, but the will of a people, channeled through their elected representative. The symbolism is woven so deeply into the fabric of the nation. 13 stripes on the shield, representing the original 13 colonies, standing together, unadorned, relying on their own virtue. Above them, a constellation of 13 stars breaking through a cloud, a new nation taking its place among the sovereign powers of the world. The motto, pluribus unum, out of many, one. It's not just a quaint Latin phrase, it is the core challenge and promise of America. Out of many states, one nation. Out of many backgrounds, one people. Out of many beliefs, one republic. It's a call to unity that has been tested by war, by protest, by political division, and yet it endures. It's an ideal we are constantly striving to live up to. Think of the life of this symbol. It has witnessed the Louisiana Purchase and the race to the moon. It has been present for the signing of civil rights legislation and the end of world wars. It has seen the country expand from a thin strip of coastline to a continental power. It has watched as generations have debated, argued, and fought over the true meaning of the words liberty and justice for all. Through it all, the seal has remained unchanged, a constant North Star in the American political firmament. It doesn't shout, it doesn't boast. It simply is a silent, eternal witness. The Great Seal is a compact story, a visual poem about a nation's identity. It tells of a belief in a higher purpose, a dedication to building a more perfect union. It speaks of a deep-seated love for peace, backed by the unwavering strength to protect it. It represents the audacious hope of a fledgling republic, that a government of the people, BTP, and for the people, shall not perish from the earth. It is the legacy of the past, the reality of the present, and the promise of the future, all captured in one intricate design. So the next time you hold a dollar, pass an embassy, or see a presidential document on the news, take a second look. See it not just as an official insignia, but as the quiet guardian it is, the eternal seal of a nation's ideals, a timeless promise, resting softly in the heart of America. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into one of our nation's most important symbols. If you found this journey as fascinating as I did, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more stories hidden in plain sight. We'll see you in the next one.